Hello student, welcome to my YouTube channel Dhyani classes. If you're watching my video for the first time, do subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever new video will be uploaded. So in today's video we'll cover the second part of the chapter Albert Einstein at School, written by Patrick Pringle from class 11 CBSE. So let's get started. So in the first part of the chapter we have seen Albert Einstein used to read a book on geology, and when his sister Elsa told him, "Why are you reading this book, or do you have this subject in school?" Then he replies, "I do read this subject because in my school I don't have any science subject." And then Elsa asked him, "Why are you studying this book?" And then Albert says, "I have so much interest in learning science and all about the earth and its structure and all." So his sister became very surprised because he was reading the subject which was not in his syllabus. So let's look at the second part of the chapter with line by line explanation now. "You are right, of course, Albert," she said, "but it won't help with your diploma." So here Albert immediately said, "Yes, you are right, whatever you are telling in order to learn things by heart." But at the same time, his sister replied that it won't help you with your diploma. That means she said Albert that reading or learning geology will not work at all, and you have to learn and understand whatever your teacher is teaching you in the school. And if you are not learning your subjects, it won't help you to pass the examination and get your diploma, because geology is not your subject. And says apart from books on science, his only comfort was music, and he played his violin regularly until his landlady asked him to stop. So here, apart from geology, Albert had a hobby of listening to music, and says he played his violin regularly until his landlady asked him to stop. So he used to play violin because the music was comforting to him, and he used to play the violin regularly throughout the day until his landlady, that means the owner of the house, asked him to stop creating unnecessary sound regularly. And then immediately his sister told him, "That wailing gets on my nerves," she said. So she told him that, "I really don't like the music, and the wailing gets on my nerves." That means music makes the landlady angry, and the sound of the violin irritated her so much. And then the owner of the house used to ask him to stop playing the violin, and says, "There is enough noise in this house with all the kids howling." So the landlady also told him that there is enough noise in this house. That means apart from the violin, there is already a lot of noise inside the house. And why she is telling him? Because the kids are always fighting and getting beaten up, and they keep crying, and at the same time Albert used to play the violin. So she gets irritated with a lot of noise. Further, he says Albert was tempted to point out that most of the time it was she who made them howl, but he decided it was better to say nothing. So here Albert is saying that he was tempted to point out the most of the time it was who she made them howl. That means the owner of the house or the landlady who was responsible for making their children cry, and in this way they were making a lot of noise inside the house. And says, but he decided it was better to say nothing. So Albert thought, instead of arguing with the landlady, it would be better to keep quiet, and he did not tell anything to her when she used to ask him to stop playing violin. And says, "I must get away from here," he told Yuri after 6 months alone in Munich. So many times Albert also told Yuri that I must get away from here. That means I must leave this place because of the landlady, and I won't get out from this house. And then left the house. And he also told his friend Yuri that enough is enough, and I cannot stay here anymore, and I do want to get out from this place. And after 6 months alone in Munich. So he said that he was here all alone, and he had been staying here for 6 months, and now everything is enough, and he just want to get back to his place. And says, "It is observed that I should go on like this." So Albert thought, it is observed, that means I should go on like this. That means as per him it is useless to go to the school, and teaching method is not correct according to him, and he is not interested in going to school, and does not have any interest in learning a subject that is taught here this school. In the end, it will turn out I have been wasting my father's money and everyone's time. So here Albert felt that if he continues with the same method of learning, it will turn out I have been wasting my father's money. That means he thought he is wasting his father's money because he was not interested in learning these subjects which is taught in this school, and feels he is also wasting everyone's time to make him understand all about a subject which he was studying at that time. And says, "It will be better for all if I stop now." So here he is saying that the best thing I can do is to stop studying right now, because he felt that he is wasting his father's money as well as everyone's time, because he was not interested. And then suddenly Yuri asked him, and then what will you do? Yuri asked, I don't know. So immediately Yuri asked him, then what will you do? That means he asked him, if you don't want to continue to school, or if you think that you are wasting your father's money, then what will you do? But at the same time Albert replied him, I don't know. That means he does not know what to do if he stops going to school. And then Yuri wanted to know what he will do if he stopped going to the school, and says, if I go to Milan, I am afraid my father will send me back unless. So Albert also told him that if I go to Milan, that means if he goes back to his own place, Milan, where his father was living, it is in Italy, and says, I am afraid my father will send me back unless. So he thought that if he goes back to Milan, his father will send him back to this place where he was staying and will tell him to complete the diploma and get the certificate, and says, his eyes gleamed with the sudden idea, Yuri, do you know any friendly doctors? So immediately his eyes gleamed with a sudden idea. That means Albert got an idea, and then he asked Yuri that, do you know any friendly doctors? So he wanted to know if he knew any friendly doctor to whom he used to talk or meet, because he had an idea in his mind. Further he says, I know a lot of medical students and some of them are friendly, Yuri said. So here Yuri replied to Albert that he knew a few medical students who were there studying, and because he was also a medical student, so in this way he told him that he knew a few medical students there and some of them are very friendly, and says, doctor, no, I never had enough money to go to one. So here he is saying that he doesn't know doctor there because he knew a few medical students there, and says, I have never had enough money to go to one. That means he never had extra money to go to a doctor for any medical consultation, and says, why? Suppose, said Albert, that I had a nerve breakdown. So suddenly Yuri asked Albert that why. That means he wanted to know why he is looking for a doctor. And then Albert says, suppose I had a nerve breakdown. That means Albert revealed his plan and said, I want to have a nerve breakdown. That means he wanted to show in report that he had a mental illness because of the anxiety or depression. And then says, suppose a doctor would say it's bad for me to go to school and I need to get right away from it. So here he continues revealing his plan that suppose a doctor would say it's bad for me to go to school. That means he wanted to escape the school by getting a written note from a doctor that he is suffering from nerve breakdown due to stress or anxiety or working extra throughout the day and night. And in this way he can show the report to his father, and then it will be easy for him to get out from the school. So this was the plan in his mind in order to escape from the school, and that's why Albert is looking for a doctor. I can't imagine a doctor saying that, said Yuri. So here Yuri replied that he can't imagine a doctor saying that means I don't think the doctor will certify it or not because you are telling a lie, and then the doctor would never agree on giving wrong observation and all, and says I must try, said Albert, to find a doctor who specializes in nerves. So here Albert also knew that he is telling a lie, but he says I must try because he wanted to escape from the school, and telling Yuri to find out a doctor who specializes in nerves. So he was trying to find a doctor, especially the one who is a specialist in nerves, and then they are the only one who will be able to certify that Albert is suffering from nerve breakdown, and says there are plenty of them, Yuri told him. So immediately Yuri told him that there are plenty of them. That means there are many doctors who are specialists in nerves. And then he hesitated for a moment and then added rather reluctantly, I'll ask some of the students if they know one, if you like. So here Albert hesitated for a moment. That means he was not sure that the idea will work or not, and then added rather reluctantly. That means he was not happy at all, because in real sense he did not want to be made doctor certify him, because he was telling a lie and it was just an idea to escape from the school, and says I'll ask some of the students if they know, if you like. So he hesitated a little bit because it was not true, and then Yuri told him, okay, I'll try my best to find out the best doctor nearby myself, and I will ask my friend as well and find out if they know any doctor who are expert in nerves. Further he says, will you? Oh, thank you, Yuri. Albert's eyes were shining. So here immediately Albert became very happy to hear that Yuri will help him, And he said, "Thank you, Yuri." And Albert's eyes were shining. That means his eyes started shining because of the happiness. And he was sure that Yuri will help him in order to come out from the school permanently, and says, "Wait a moment, I haven't found one yet." "Oh, but you will." So here Albert started feeling happy because his friend is going to help him, and then he thanked him. But at the same time his friend says, "Wait a moment, I haven't found yet." That means his friend told him that I haven't found any doctor, so don't thank me too early. And then Albert says, "Oh, but you will." So Albert was sure that he will be able to find a doctor, and says surely he will be able to find a doctor, because he was getting an assurance from his friend. And his friend replied, "And if I do, I don't know if he'll be willing to help you." So Yuri told him that I don't know if he will be willing to help you. That means Yuri was not sure whether the doctor will help him or not by giving him certificate that he is suffering from nerve breakdown. And then Albert says, he will, declared Albert. So immediately Albert replied, he will. That means he was certain that the doctor will help him even though he is not actually going through a nerve breakdown. And says, no, surely the doctor are going to help him. And says, "I am going to have a real nerve breakdown to make it easier for him." He laughed merrily. So Albert said he is really going to have a nerve breakdown in the funniest manner that will make it easier for the doctor to find out and will understand what his condition is and help him in the way what he wanted. So what do you mean by merrily? That means happily. "I have never seen you looking less nervous," remarked Yuri. So here Yuri said to Albert that "I have never seen you looking less nervous." That means Albert never feel frightened, but this time he was a little bit nervous because the plan that he made was lie. And then his friend Yuri remarked that his friend is looking really nervous, and says, "A day or two at school will soon put that right," Albert assured him. So immediately Albert replied that a day or two at school will soon put that right. That means if he goes to school for next 2 days, he will already had a nerve breakdown, and then the doctor will definitely give him certificate. And says certainly he had lost his high spirits when Yuri saw him next. So here Albert thought when his friend Yuri will meet him next time, he had lost his high spirit. That means next time when Yuri met his friend Albert, he was looking very dull because he was not happy. And says, "I can't stand it any longer," he said. "I really shall have a nerve breakdown that will satisfy any doctor." So here Albert thought when his friend Yuri will meet him next time, he had lost his high spirits. That means next time when Yuri met his friend Albert, he was looking very dull because he was not happy at all. And says, "I can't stand any longer," he said. "I really shall have a nerve breakdown that will satisfy any doctor." So here Albert says, "I can't stand it any longer." That means I can't wait and can't bear this torture of going to school any longer, because he doesn't like to go to school and the way teachers were teaching him subjects. And then he really have this nerve breakdown, and then the doctor will be able to examine how I am suffering from mental illness due to stress or depression. Further he says, "Keep it up then," said Yuri. "I have found a doctor for you." So here his friend Yuri assured him that keep it up. That means to keep trying, and definitely you will be able to find, or you will be able to satisfy the doctor that you are suffering from mental illness even though you are not really sick. And says, "I have found a doctor for you." That means he told him finally, "I have found a doctor for you who will be going to give you a certificate, or who is really going to help you out with your problem that is not going to school every day." And then says, you have Albert's face lit up. "Oh good, when can I see him?" So Albert started feeling happy because his friend told him that he found a doctor as per his need. And then Albert became very happy to hear that, and then he asked, "Oh good, when I can see him?" So that means immediately Albert asked him, that's really good news for me, and I wanted to know when I can meet him so that I can get out from the school. And says, "I have an appointment for you tomorrow evening," Yuri said. "Here is the address." So immediately Yuri told him that I have an appointment for you for tomorrow evening. That means Yuri had already fixed an appointment with the doctor for Albert. And then he says, "Here is the address." So Yuri told him that I have already fixed an appointment for you, and showed him a letter in which he wrote the address of the clinic. And says he handed Albert a piece of paper. So he handed that written note to Albert and said that here is the address where you have to go and meet the doctor. And says, "Dr. Answell, he is a specialist in nerve troubles," asked Albert. So his friend Yuri wrote the clinic address of the Dr. Answell, and then immediately Albert asked him if he was a specialist in nerve troubles. That means he is asking him that a doctor who is specialized in mental illness such as anxiety, depression or stress will be able to help him out or not. Not exactly, Yuri admitted. So immediately Yuri told him that whatever you are thinking, it is not true, and this doctor is not really a specialist in nerves troubles, and says, as a matter of fact, he only qualified as a doctor last week. So as per Yuri, the doctor was not actually an expert in illness, mental illness, because he only qualified as a doctor last week. That means he has completed his medical studies last week only. That means the doctor was not experienced in this way. And then Yuri says, you may even be his first patient. So here Yuri is telling him that he just finished his medical studies last week and you are going to be his first patient, and says, you know him as a student then. I have known Ernst for years. Yuri hesitated for a few moments. So immediately Albert says, you know him as a student. That means he is asking, you both were friends, and I'm sure you both were a medical student. And then Yuri replied, I have known Ernst for many years. That means he knew the doctor for many years. While telling this to Albert, Yuri hesitated for a few moments. So here Yuri wanted to say something to Albert, but then he hesitated and then again started speaking, and then he said to Albert that he is not a fool. He warned Albert. What do you mean? So immediately Yuri told Albert that he is not a fool. That means his friend who became a doctor recently, not a fool, and he knows everything, and warned Albert that he is not a fool doctor. And then Albert replied that, what do you mean? That means he wanted to know why Yuri is saying like this, that the doctor is not fool and don't try to deceive him or tell him. Further he says, don't try to pull the wool over his eyes, that's all. So here Yuri again told him by giving him warning that don't try to pull the wool over his eyes. That means don't try to cheat him and be trustful to him, and the doctor is very different from you and all. So in this way Yuri is warning Albert and says that's all. That means this is the thing what he wanted to say to Albert, and says be frank with him but don't pretend you have got what you haven't. So Yuri also told him to be frank. That means tell the truth and don't pretend you have got what you haven't. That means don't overreact as if you have got something that you really don't have. That means don't show him that you are really sick of mental illness, and says not that you deceive anyone, Yuri added. So finally he told him that you deceive anyone. That means he know Albert is good at human being. Albert is very good human being, and says you never cheat anyone and you never deceive anyone, but this time for the sake of certificate don't try to fool the doctor because he's not really fool. And then Yuri says you are the world's worst liar. So here Yuri knew Albert that he is world's worst liar. That means it is very hard for Albert to speak lie, and Albert does not know to tell a lie, and this is the best quality of Albert because he never deceives people and he is straightforward and does not know how to tell a lie. And says Albert spent the next day wondering what to tell the doctor. So here Albert understood what his friend told him and warned him, and then Albert spent the next day wondering. That means Albert was thinking what to tell the doctor because he was not really suffering from mental illness, and because his friend had already warned him not to tell a lie or not to tell something that he does not have. So he was really wondering what to tell to the doctor. Further he says when the time arrived for his appointment, he had worried over it so much that he really was quite nervous. So here when the time arrived for his appointment, that means when the time came for his appointment or to meet to the doctor or for checkup, he had worried over it so much that he really was quite nervous. That means Albert started feeling quite nervous because he don't know what to tell the doctor. So due to overthinking, he was looking as if he is suffering from mental illness, and says, I don't really know how to describe my trouble, Dr. Whale, he began. So Albert was thinking so much and he really don't know how to describe his problem to the doctor, and then finally he went to the doctor's clinic and thinking so much because he did not know what to say to the doctor and how to describe his illness, such as the reason of illness. So finally he met the doctor and then immediately started telling him something that don't try, said the young doctor with a friendly smile. So the doctor was very kind and sympathetic and told Albert that don't try. That means if you are not able to describe your illness, it's okay, I can understand your suffering. So the doctor was very kind and sympathetic and told Albert that don't try. That means if you are not able to describe your illness, it's okay, I can understand your suffering. So the doctor was very understanding and friendly and told him with a smiling that You don't even have to try to tell me something that you cannot really explain. And says, Yuri has already given me a history of the case. Oh, what did he say? So the doctor told him that Yuri has already given me a history of the case. That means Yuri already had informed the doctor all about the Albert and his illness and problem. And then in surprise, Albert asked the doctor, oh, what did he say? So Albert wanted to know what Yuri told the doctor. Only that you want me to think you have had a nerve breakdown and say that you mustn't go back to that school. So here the doctor told him Yuri had already told me everything about you, that you want me to think you have had a nerve breakdown. That means you are suffering from anxiety and depression and you mustn't go back to that school. So Yuri told the doctor to give him a certificate telling him that he must stop going to the school because of the mental illness, and says, oh dear, Albert's face fell. So suddenly Albert felt relief and his face fell. That means earlier he was very happy, but later on he became sad because it was not truth that he was suffering from mental illness and he is going to fool the doctor. And then Albert replied, he shouldn't have told you that. Why not? Isn't it true? Then so Albert felt very sad because Yuri had told him a lie that Albert is suffering from mental illness and he want you to certify him so that he can escape from the school. And then the doctor replied, why not? Isn't it true? That means immediately doctor asked, why are you feeling sad? Even Yuri told me the truth that you are suffering from mental illness. And then doctor asked him, isn't it true? That means whatever Yuri told me isn't true then. And says, yes, that's the trouble. Now you will say there is nothing wrong with me and you will tell me to go back to the school. So immediately Albert says, yes, that's the trouble. That means whatever Yuri told the doctor, that was the trouble according to Albert. And says, now you will say there is nothing wrong with me. That means the doctor would tell him there is no issue with Albert and nothing wrong going with him. And then you will say, then you will tell me to go back to that school. So Albert feels that Yuri told the doctor truth, that there is no trouble. So Albert is feeling that the doctor understood that he has no trouble and he would tell him to go back to that school. Further he says, don't be too sure of that, said the doctor. So suddenly the doctor replied Albert that don't be too sure of that. That means don't be sure what I am going to tell you and you may go back to the school or maybe not. And says, as a matter of fact, I am pretty sure you are in nervous state about that school. So here the doctor understood that he is not happy at all and says, as a matter of fact, I am pretty sure you are in nervous state. That means the doctor understood that Albert is very disturbed and unhappy and there is something going in his mind that causing him, and especially the school, that he is going to that school. So in this way the doctor understood that he is not feeling really well or his health condition is not so good and that is causing his nerve state. And then Albert became very surprised and asked the doctor that, but I haven't told you anything about it, said Albert wide-eyed. How can you know that? So Albert became very surprised and immediately he asked the doctor that, but I haven't told you anything about it. That means Albert told the doctor, I haven't revealed or explained anything about my health condition and how I am feeling and all. And then how can you know? That means how can you know that I am very disturbed and I am in a nervous state about that school and all, and how do you understand that there is something really wrong with me? Because you wouldn't have to come to see me about this if you hadn't been pretty close to a nerve breakdown, that's why. So the doctor replied to him that because you wouldn't have to come to see me, that means you wouldn't have to come here if everything is going well with you, but you are somehow disturbed and Yuri already told me about you and school, that school is bothering you a lot and you are very close to a nerve breakdown and that's why you came to see me. And says, now, said the doctor briskly, if I certify that you have had a nerve breakdown and must stay away from school for a while, what will you do? So now the doctor wants to ask Albert briskly, that means impatiently, and asked him, if I certify you that you have had nerve breakdown, that means the doctor asked him, if I suppose give you a certificate that you are suffering from mental illness and you must away from the school for a while, then what will you do? So the doctor wanted to know, if he certifies him and telling him you must stop going to school with immediate effect, then what will you do, because you are not going to school anymore for some period. Further he says, I'll go to Italy, said Albert. So immediately Albert replied that if you will certify me, I'll go to Italy. And where he wanted to go Italy? To Milan, where my parents are. So he said that he will be going to Milan if he stops going to school, and wanted to meet his parents, and says, and what will you do there? I'll try to get into an Italian college or institute. So here the doctor asked him immediately that what will you do? That means the doctor asked him that what are you going to do there, because you are not going to school for some time. And then Albert replied, I'll try to get into an Italian college or institute. So Albert says he will try to get admission to an Italian college or institute in order to continue his further studies, and says, how can you without a diploma? So immediately the doctor asked him, like, you haven't completed your diploma here, and now you are going to get an admission that an Italian college or an institute to continue your further studies. And then Albert replied, I'll ask my mathematics teacher to give me something about my work, and perhaps that will be enough. So Albert replied him that he will ask his mathematics teacher to give him something about his work. That means he will ask his math teacher, because Albert was good at mathematics and he feels that the mathematics teacher would help him and give him something in return, and that return note perhaps will be work. So he feels that his mathematics teacher would give him a recommendation letter, and with that he will be able to get admission into some college. So this is the end of the second part of the chapter. Let's look at the third part of the chapter in my next video. I hope you like the video. For more informative videos, do subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever new video will be uploaded. So thank you so much for watching once again. Stay safe, stay healthy.